The lights in the Chicago press room burned hot under the weight of tension. Cameras rolled, microphones buzzed, and the air carried that sharp electricity that comes before a storm. Donald Trump stood at the podium, wearing his signature smug grin, holding up a blown-up map of Texas. The red and blue lines carved through the state like battle scars. "This," he declared, "is a perfectly legal map. The people love it. Everyone knows it's fair." His voice was loud, confident, almost daring anyone to challenge him. That dare didn't last long. From the side of the room, Jasmine Crockett stepped forward, slow and deliberate, her heels clicking like a gavel hitting wood. She didn't rush, she wanted every camera, every set of eyes, to register her presence. She stopped just far enough to be on every network's shot, and with a calm that cut deeper than shouting, she said, "Mr. Trump, the people never voted for this map. Your lawyers drew it in backrooms, away from the voters, away from the truth." The room shifted. Some reporters froze mid-typing. Trump blinked twice, caught between the instinct to fire back and the shock that she had undercut his opening statement in less than 15 seconds. Fake news, he tried, but it landed weak, too rehearsed, too hollow. Jasmine's eyes locked on his. "If it's so legal, why are the communities it slices in half the ones who vote against you?" she asked, her voice firm, her words clean as a scalpel. The silence after was the kind that made producers in control rooms lean forward. She hadn't raised her voice, but the force of the question hit harder than any insult could. And for the first time in the press room that day, Donald Trump didn't have an answer. Trump adjusted the microphone, forcing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "You don't know what you're talking about, Jasmine. This map was approved by experts you hired," she cut in, her tone still measured, but each syllable landing like a strike. The interruption sent a ripple through the room. The reporters knew the game, Trump dominated by talking over others. But here, Jasmine wasn't letting him dictate the tempo. She leaned one hand on the podium, not to claim it, but to remind him she wasn't going anywhere. "I've read the filings. I've seen the emails. The intent was never representation, it was control," she said. The screens behind them, still showing the Texas map, now felt like evidence in a trial. Trump shifted his weight, searching for a quip, but Jasmine didn't give him the window. "You drew districts that cut through neighborhoods like a knife, splitting voting power in half. That's not democracy, it's surgery without consent." A gasp slipped from somewhere in the press corps. Trump's face flushed, a sign to anyone watching that her words weren't just getting under his skin, they were drawing blood. "You have no proof," he fired back. Jasmine smiled faintly. "Funny you'd say that. I brought it with me." She reached into a thin folder, pulling out highlighted memos, each page a potential headline. The camera zoomed, the flashes came rapid. In that moment, Trump's famous ability to command the room slipped. Jasmine had turned the press conference into a courtroom, and he was on the stand. Jasmine held up the first page, the yellow highlights glowing under the lights. "This memo," she began, "is from your own redistricting consultant. It says, word for word, priority is to minimize urban districts with high opposition turnout." She let the words hang in the air, not rushing, making sure each one was recorded by every microphone in the room. Trump leaned toward the mic, "That's taken out of context." But Jasmine didn't even look at him. "The context," she said, flipping to the next page, "is the part where they call certain communities low-value votes. That's not my wording, Mr. Trump. That's yours." A low murmur swept through the reporters, part disbelief, part outrage. Trump opened his mouth, then closed it again. He wasn't used to being boxed in like this, especially not by someone who refused to take the bait of his usual insults. Jasmine stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "You didn't just redraw a map. You erased voices. You took a pen and decided who mattered less." The weight of her accusation pulled the room into silence. Even the photographers slowed, sensing they were watching something shift. Trump gripped the podium, knuckles widening, eyes darting toward his aides at the edge of the room. But no one could rescue him from the fact that the papers in Jasmine's hand were more damning than any soundbite he could craft. And Jasmine knew it. She wasn't just speaking for herself, she was speaking for every district that had been carved up and every voter told they didn't count. Trump tried to laugh it off, forcing that familiar half-smirk. "You sound like a conspiracy theorist, Jasmine. The courts have seen these maps." Jasmine tilted her head slightly, as if she'd been waiting for that line. "Yes, they have. And do you know what else they've seen? Your own legal team stalling discovery for 18 months. She flipped another page, revealing an email timestamped in bold. "This one, dated just weeks before the map's release, says, if we hold them in court long enough, they can't vote under the old districts." The press room erupted in a wave of gasps and furious typing. Trump shook his head, mumbling, "Fake," but it sounded weak, almost brittle. Jasmine leaned in, her voice steady but sharp enough to cut. "You called it legal. I call it theft." The word hit the air like a gavel strike, impossible to ignore. Trump's eyes narrowed, but instead of responding, he shifted behind the podium, his stance defensive now. Reporters began shouting questions over each other. "Mr. Trump, is this true?" But Jasmine raised her hand slightly, and the room quieted as if she'd taken the moderator's chair. "This isn't about partisan politics," she said, turning her gaze directly to the cameras. "It's about whether a democracy survives when the rules are rewritten in the dark." The words didn't just land, they lingered. Trump looked down at his notes, but for once, the script in front of him had nothing to offer. Jasmine had already rewritten the narrative. Jasmine placed the stack of papers on the podium with deliberate care, as if sealing them into the official record. "Mr. Trump, you can call me anything you like. You can question my motives, my party, my background, but you can't change what's written in your own team's words." She gestured toward the reporters, her tone sharpening. "These aren't my accusations. They're your instructions." Trump shifted, his eyes darting toward the cameras, searching for a friendly lens that might give him an escape. But Jasmine's control over the room was absolute now. She continued, her voice lowering just enough to force everyone to lean in. "You say this map was legal. I say it's a crime scene drawn in ink." The phrase hit like a spark to dry kindling, murmurs rising among the press corps. Trump opened his mouth, but before he could speak, Jasmine turned to the audience, viewers watching live across the country. "If the people didn't vote for this map, then this map doesn't belong to the people. It belongs to the man who signed off on it. And that man is standing right here." The silence was electric. Trump's usual verbal steamroll was gone. Instead, his jaw tightened, a visible sign that the fight was no longer on his terms. Jasmine glanced back at him, her expression calm, almost pitying. "The difference between us, Mr. Trump, is that I believe in winning elections by earning votes, not by erasing them." Trump gripped the podium tighter, his knuckles blanching. "You're twisting facts," he said, his voice rising, trying to reclaim the stage. But Jasmine didn't flinch. She took a single step forward, narrowing the gap until the tension between them was almost tangible. "Facts don't twist, Mr. Trump," she replied evenly. "They just reveal what's been hiding in plain sight." She reached for another document from the folder, a color-coded breakdown of districts before and after his map. Side by side, the changes were undeniable. Entire communities sliced apart, minority populations diluted. She held it up so the cameras could catch every line. "You call this fair? Because the rest of America calls it rigged." The words reverberated through the room, and this time, Trump didn't immediately fire back. His gaze locked on the map like he was seeing it through the audience's eyes, and it wasn't flattering. Jasmine pressed the advantage. "I'm not here to debate your opinion of me. I'm here to defend the people whose neighborhoods you turned into bargaining chips. A murmur of approval rolled through the press pool, faint but audible enough for Trump to hear. He tried to interject, "You don't understand." But Jasmine cut him off with surgical precision, "No, Mr. Trump. I understand exactly. You drew a map to protect your power. And you forgot that power can be challenged, in public, in daylight, and on live TV." Trump's jaw tightened, and he leaned toward the microphone as if volume could replace substance. "People support me because I protect them," he barked. Jasmine raised an eyebrow, her voice dropping to a deliberate calm. "Protect them? You silenced them." She tapped the printed map with her finger, each gesture echoing like a hammer strike. "This isn't protection, it's possession. You don't own these voters. You don't own their voices. And you sure don't own democracy." The crowd of reporters shifted forward, sensing the momentum had fully swung. Trump's signature bravado faltered. He glanced to the side, eyes searching for an aid, an interruption, anything. Jasmine didn't give him the opening. "You've built a career on controlling the stage," she continued. "But today, the stage belongs to the people you tried to write out of history." The room was silent except for the rapid-fire clicks of camera shutters. Trump tried one last jab, muttering, "You're grandstanding." Jasmine met his gaze, unblinking. "No, Mr. Trump. I'm standing. And the only thing that's grand here is the scale of what you've done." It was the kind of moment that didn't need a gavel or a vote, just the truth, laid bare for all to see. Trump's lips parted, but no words came out, just a shallow exhale into the mic. It was the first real silence he'd given all day, and Jasmine seized it. She turned to the cameras, her posture straight, her voice firm but resonant. "America, take a good look. This is what happens when power goes unchecked. Maps change, rules bend, and the people are told to accept it." She lifted the document high again, the fluorescent lights catching the red boundary lines. "But these lines aren't just ink on paper, they're the difference between a voice and an echo, between representation and erasure." Trump shifted, but the quiet from his podium was deafening now. Jasmine leaned in slightly, as if speaking to him alone. "You tried to turn democracy into a private club. I'm here to tell you, membership isn't for sale." A ripple of murmurs ran through the press corps, and a few even broke into restrained nods. Jasmine set the map down slowly, letting the gesture land like a final period. "The people will redraw this story. Not you." The camera zoomed tighter on Trump, his expression locked somewhere between frustration and uncertainty. For the first time, he looked like a man who understood he'd lost, not the argument, but the room. Trump finally tried to rally, leaning forward with a forced smile. "You talk a big game, Jasmine, but politics is about winning." Jasmine's reply was instant, her voice cutting through the air like a sharpened blade. "Winning? You mean rewriting the rules so you can't lose?" She stepped closer, her shadow now crossing his podium. "You can call it strategy, but where I come from, we call it stealing." The room tightened with tension, reporters frozen in place as if afraid to miss a single word. Trump gave a dry laugh, the kind that hides more than it reveals, but his eyes betrayed him, darting, restless. Jasmine didn't blink. "The map you're defending doesn't represent the will of the people. It represents the will of one man, and that man's will is on trial here today." She pointed briefly toward the live broadcast cameras. "Not in a courtroom. Not behind closed doors. Right here. Right now. In front of the entire country." A low murmur of approval spread through the press pool. Jasmine tilted her head, almost studying him. "If you believe this is a fair fight, then answer one question, Mr. Trump, why did you have to redraw the lines to win it?" His mouth opened, but no sound followed. The pause was longer this time, and in politics, silence is an answer. Jasmine let the silence stretch, each second tightening around Trump like a noose made of his own hesitation. The cameras caught every twitch of his jaw, every shift of his stance. "You can't answer because you know the truth," she said, her tone steady, almost calm. "The people didn't choose you, you chose the people you wanted." She placed the map flat on the podium between them, her hand resting on it as if claiming it on behalf of those cut out by its lines. "But here's the thing about maps, they can be redrawn. And so can power." The words hit like a gavel strike, final and undeniable. Trump's gaze fell to the floor, a rare retreat from eye contact, while the room erupted in a flurry of camera flashes. Jasmine stepped back, giving the moment to the audience, to the nation watching. "This isn't over," she said, her voice carrying past the walls. "It's only the first time you've been told no in public. It won't be the last." With that, she gathered her papers, leaving Trump frozen in place, the once commanding voice of the room now reduced to a figure framed in silence. In that instant, the battle wasn't just won, it was immortalized. "Today wasn't just about a map," Jasmine said, facing the cameras one last time. "It was about a truth too many have tried to bury, that democracy only works when every voice counts. We watched a man who built his career on dominating the conversation find himself without an answer, because there is no defense for silencing the people. This was never personal. It was about the voters in every district whose choices were stolen before they could even cast a ballot. And if that makes powerful men uncomfortable, good. That means the truth is finally being heard. Let this be the moment we draw a new line, not on paper, but in history, one that says no leader, no party, no president is above the people. Not today. Not ever."